Happy Monday. Welcome to Bet On. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Joe Ranieri of WagerTalk.com. All right, guys, we got bowl games underway, so let's get this one going pretty quickly because for once we have an important primetime game. It's important enough. Playoff implications will be had tonight in Cincinnati. Buffalo now a 2.5-point favorite, total 50.5 here on the WagerTalk odds screen, pretty much across the board. I feel like I'm a little late to the party here on Buffalo, Marco, and I'm kind of kicking myself. I didn't take them minus the half earlier in the week. We were joking before we started the show that I was kind of back and forth on how I wanted that Ravens game to play out last night. I know you were as well, but the Bengals really need a win tonight, plus a win over Baltimore to win the AFC North. Does this game matter to them as much as it matters to the Bills?
Yeah, it does. They don't want to be in that spot, but with the situation that happened last night, obviously Cincinnati in a much better state. Referring to last night, Baltimore, as I told you, Kelly, I had a lot of teasers going to Pittsburgh last night because we know the history of that series. Also knowing that history of the series, right before game time, about an hour before game time, after all the dust settled from the afternoon yesterday, that Pittsburgh actually has a legitimate shot to the playoffs because everything unfolded correctly for them in the afternoon, that if they won last night, they only need to win next week and have two teams lose, and those two teams really should lose the games that they're playing. Pittsburgh could sneak into the playoffs. So we saw the line momentarily last night go to a pick'em. Well, me plus EV, I couldn't help myself. And I had all those teasers on Pittsburgh and an 8-point middle sitting out there. I had to take some middle action there. And that last drive, I didn't know who I was rooting for. Cash a juicy middle with Baltimore winning and the teaser covering, or my fandom and my love of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, I ended up rooting for the Steelers to get that touchdown. So I was bipolar last night. What can I say watching that game? But it was fun. But for tonight, I know the Bengals are the hottest team in the NFL. They've won 7 in a row. But let's be honest in who they've beaten. They really beat one legitimate team. That was Kansas City. Everybody else in there, they had the luxury, like everybody else in the AFC North this year. They got to play the NFC South. That's easy wins for everybody. You look at the quarterbacks that they faced. The only other quarterback they faced was Tom Brady that was quality. And we know that Tom's having a bad year. Until yesterday, he had his best day of the season. So, and even with having a bad season, when Cincinnati went to Tampa, if you remember, Tampa had a 17-point lead in that game. So they did jump on them. The only other team they played was the Steelers with a rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett. They won that game, and Pittsburgh's playing well now, but Pittsburgh scored 30 in that game. So why I'm bringing up all those examples is Buffalo's clearly the better defensive team in this game. And Buffalo has something to prove. They're trying to get the number 1 seed. They still need Kansas City to stub their toe along the way. But Buffalo's the team that everybody thought would be in the Super Bowl one of the last 2 years. And it was Kansas City that took that spot last year. Or excuse me, it was Cincinnati that took that spot because they faced Kansas City, who survived that epic playoff game against Buffalo. Buffalo's got something to prove tonight. I like Josh Allen. Both quarterbacks are good, but he's still early in his career. Josh Allen, a little bit more experience. And when the game's on the line, I like Josh Allen. This is a guy that he'll give his body up to get a first down. This guy ain't sliding. And if you're a Buffalo Bill fan, you got to hold your breath every time he runs. But he runs effectively to get those first downs and extend the chains, keep the drive going. I'm going to go Buffalo tonight. We're shuffling off to Buffalo, and in honor of it, I'll probably be tweeting out a big plate of Buffalo wings a little later.
There you go. Marco loves himself some wings. Joe, this is kind of interesting. So Buffalo doesn't really control their own destiny, but they do have to win tonight. And as Marco said, lose to the Raiders on Thursday So it's kind of a must-win situation. You and I talk about that a lot, where must-wins aren't always must-wins. So something to really consider here. The Bengals have covered 7 straight. They have been on an absolute and utter tear. I don't know if I want to step in front of that freight train.
Yeah, no, and it goes back even further than that, right? I mean, they're averaging, what, 80% covers now over the last 2 seasons? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous how much, how money they have been when it comes to against the number. But I think Marco brought up a couple of really good points here, including when you really dive into the numbers and break down who it is that they have played, you start to get a better understanding of why it is they've been this successful. And I've mentioned it 100 times on this show that their second half adjustments have been absolutely phenomenal. And that's a big reason as to why they've been able to cover these games. Lou Anarumo is one of the best X's and O's defensive coordinators in the game. Whatever success, especially some of these mediocre teams that they've played, whatever success they had in a scripted portion of the game goes out the window in the second half. However, the Bills tonight also, and Josh Allen, one of the single most profitable quarterbacks to back in the second half of games. In fact, most of the damage that they do is in the second half. Why is that? Well, they make the necessary adjustments. A very well-coached team as well here. So when you put it all together, I think the thing that separates these two teams is on the defensive side of the ball. There is a big difference and a drop-off in scoring with Cincinnati when they face defenses that are top 10 versus everybody else. And right now you're looking at the number 4 defense with the Buffalo Bills here tonight, who, make no mistake about it, Cal, there is, over the last couple of years, Buffalo had the attitude of, I don't care whether it's Arrowhead, it's here, we just want to be in it to win it, right? We want to have the ability to have win a game on the road, which actually wasn't bad over the last couple of years, because their record, ironically enough, at Orchard Park was worse than on the road, except for this year. They want this game in Orchard Park. They want to know that you've got to go through Orchard Park to make it to the Super Bowl. This game is huge for them. They are going to want to send this message, and I think the defense, especially with La'el Collins being out now, the guy that is backing up La'el Collins on that side of the line for Cincinnati, guys, is single-handedly one of the 5 worst offensive linemen in the NFL. He played last year, and they gave up more sacks. He gave up more sacks in the playoffs to Joe Burrow, and Cincinnati was winning in spite of him. But I don't think that's going to happen against the top 4 defense tonight. I do think the game is going to be a little bit lower scoring, especially early on in the first half. I do think that Buffalo has the edge defensively. Offensively, I worry about the protection that Burrow is going to get. So to me, it's chips all in, and I'm holding all those future tickets. Bills, AFC East champions, AFC champions, Super Bowl champions. And I think the run to a Super Bowl and cashing all of those tickets, it begins tonight with the Bills handling their business against Cincinnati. But don't expect a whole lot of scoring early. Probably going to come a little bit later in the game, but it's all Bills for me tonight.
I'm going to call a quick audible here just because I got the WagerTalk odds screen open and I'm going, man, we're seeing some nice line movement here on the Rose Bowl tonight. Marco, I know that you have a 4% play up on the Rose Bowl, so I'll let you plug that really quick, but then I have a question for Joe.
Yeah, it's $9 Monday at WagerTalk. Ooh. All plays just $9, all cappers. And I do have a play. I actually have 2 plays up tonight. I've got the Monday night football game. Gee, I wonder who I'm using. And then I've got the Rose Bowl. So you can head over and grab my Rose Bowl selection for just $9 tonight. And Kelly, we did hit our 5% over the weekend. It was on Ohio State. And another reason why, this is just a personal tip from Marco, why you should live on the West Coast opposed to the East Coast. How many couples on the East Coast had their first fight of 2023 when their husband said, but honey, the game is still going with Ohio State in Georgia. as the ball's about to drop. Yeah, some balls dropped, all right, on New Year's Eve on the East Coast. Enjoy that. It was only 9 p.m. when that was happening here.
Oh,
Yes.
Marco. All right, Penn State opened to pick 'em in this one, Joe. Now up to 1.5. Totals ticked up a lot, too, from 48.5 to 54. I feel like I'm a little late on Penn State. And so part of me is like, all right, maybe do I do something a little out of character? Do I do like a little 2-team money line parlay since I'm late on the Bills and I'm late on the Nittany Lions?
I don't hate that idea at all. I'm Penn State here. I think the losses that Penn State has in this game versus the losses of the Utah squad, I think it affects Utah much more than it affects Penn State here. And I do think the defense is going to be the big determining factor. And I absolutely lean to Penn State in this one from a defensive side. And listen, Cam Rising has been phenomenal, but he's going up against a 35-year-old quarterback in Sean Clifford that's been there since 1986. I mean, listen, for 30-year-old quarterbacks, we just watched Stetson Bennett. I mean, looks phenomenal ever since he took over from Matt Stafford. I mean, really, really good. He's been there since the year of the flood. But I really do think that the defense of Penn State, coupled with that offense, they're going to make more plays, I think, than Utah. I give the coaching edge to Utah, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to be enough. So Bills, Penn State, money line parlay, I think is absolutely the way to look in this one. Love that idea.
Always smart ass, Joe. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And we love you guys hanging out with us each and every Monday. We know it's a quick show. There's bowl games on, and we want to get you guys out of here. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Joe. Thank you to our producer, Dan, for putting up with us every single Monday. This is actually one of our last Monday shows. Kind of crazy. I think it is our last Monday show. Should look at a calendar before I do the same show. But that being said, we love you guys. Smash that like button. Head over to Wager Talk for $9 Mondays and see what all of the cappers have up for sale. Until then, Wednesday, let's bet on it.